Welcome back to another video, and I just got done watching a new film called Together, which is supposed to be the new addition to the body horror subgenre. Last year we had The Substance, which was one of the latest movies I could remember that is in this body horror subgenre, and basically now instead of someone coming out of you, they're going into you. And that's basically what Together is about. It premiered at Sundance back in January, and ever since I've been constantly hearing about it. But what mainly caught my attention is that it debuted with a perfect 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is insane. But now that the movie's officially out, let me see what the rating's at now, because it probably dipped a little bit. Let me see. Oh my god. No, I'm kidding. It's still at 98%, which is still incredible. It's kind of weird watching comic book films all month like Superman and Fantastic Four, and then jumping into a grotesque body horror film to end the month off. Personally, I think for movies this year, we've gotten some pretty great stuff. I do think Michael Shanks Together will be added to that list. But yeah, if you've been watching me for a while, you'll probably know that my favorite genre is horror movies, mainly because I've always loved how diverse the horror genre is. With the countless subgenres it brings, it could be one of the best films ever made or some of the worst films ever put on screen. And some of my all-time favorite horror movies are a part of the body horror subgenre, like The Fly, The Thing, and even The Brood. They always succeed on grossing me out, and that's exactly what happened when I watched Together. A more detailed explanation of the plot is that years into the relationship, Tim and Millie find themselves at a turning point. As they move to the country, an encounter with an unnatural force threatens to corrupt their lives and their love. So finally getting into my thoughts of Michael Shanks Together, I absolutely loved it. There's so much great, disturbing, gross imagery in this movie. Some shots feel like they were pulled straight out of John Carpenter's The Thing, which, speaking of The Thing, I want to get into the opening scene, which was incredible. It reminded me so much of the dog transformation scene in The Thing. So when the first 3 minutes of Together reminded me of one of my favorite horror movies ever made, I knew this movie was going to be great. I even have the poster back here. Oh, and speaking of posters, I actually got a free poster for Together at my theater. This is actually one of my favorite shots in the movie, which I should actually probably just hang it up right now. This tape does not look promising, but it's the only tape I have in my house right now, so hopefully it works. Hopefully that looks good. Here, wait, let me check. All right, I got sidetracked. Let me see where I was even at, because I think, okay, I was talking about the opening scene. Oh, and before I fully dive into this review, I do want to warn you that this will be a spoiler review. All right, so getting into the opening scene, the film begins in a remote forest near the couple's new home. Two dogs wander into the woods and encounter an abandoned cavern beneath the forest with a pool of mysterious water, which the dogs drink from and later fuse together. So the opening scene's kind of just a visual explanation of how this works, and it was just so well done. So later, when Tim and Millie take shelter in the cave during a rainstorm, he ends up drinking the water, which opens their physical and emotional fusion, and their bodies gradually start merging throughout the course of the film. There's also a line explaining how it mainly happens at night because that's when the mind is turned off and the body takes over. So you get a lot of really good creepy sequences in the dark, mainly talking about that scene where Millie wakes up and sees Tim sucking her hair down like a vacuum. Now, getting into the chemistry of Tim and Millie, Dave Franco and Alison Brie are incredible. This movie got me so invested in just the relationship alone in like the first 10 minutes, but the reason their chemistry is so strong in this movie is because they're actually married in real life. I think that makes the movie so much stronger. It makes their acting better. It makes everything feel more genuine and real. And I really think that's probably the strongest aspect of this movie is their relationship. I also loved how there's so many sequences of dialogue that they revisit towards the end. Like when Millie is talking about how on their first date, she told Tim that the Spice Girls were her favorite band, and then he later surprises her with the Spice Girls vinyl as a heartfelt gesture. And it's clear that this memory of hers still carries emotional weight, knowing that that was over a decade ago. So the ending when he saves her from bleeding out and he plays her favorite band, showing that he also remembers that memory too, was just such a sweet moment. Okay, you wait. Now let's get into the practical effects, because that's another thing that's incredible in this movie. When it comes to the body horror, this film does not disappoint, especially the scene in the hallway where their hands start to melt into each other. You can see their hands moving under their skin, their veins are vibrating, their skin looks like it's about to boil, and it's so disgusting you could almost feel it sometimes. Which, yeah, a lot of body horror films have disgusting visuals, but when certain films are so well made that sometimes you could almost feel it through the screen and get squeamish or grossed out, shows how well done this film is. Last thing I want to touch upon is the ending, because obviously this is the point in the story where stuff starts to get revealed, stuff starts to get explained, and I was so worried because I know so many movies where the first and second act are great and then the reveal loses me, but I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. It's revealed that the underground pool was led by a cult for rituals where couples would commit to this ritual which would fuse them together as one entity. It's also revealed that the neighbor next door, Jamie, has already completed this ritual and has been a fused entity for a long time now, which I think the reveal of him being fused together with his boyfriend this whole time was a really good twist. Now, him revealed to be behind the entire thing was pretty predictable since he's pretty much the only other person in this movie besides the two main characters. But at the end, Tim and Millie realize that there's no stopping this, so they decide to complete the process, and it's insane. The music is also unbelievably good in that scene. But at the very, very end, when Millie's parents come over and they're both waiting on the front porch and the door opens, you see them as one. I didn't really even know how to feel about it when the movie first ended because it's so weird and odd to look at. I kind of want to go back to the movie and pause it just on what they look like when they're fully combined because it is so uncanny and weird. I also feel like you don't get a lot of films where they just kind of accept their fate at the end. Obviously, it's a little different because they both decide that they truly love each other and they're totally fine with what's about to happen to them, which even though I would love to see them end up happily ever after, I just feel like that would be just such a generic ending. So I am so happy that at the end they kind of just decide that they can't stop this. But yeah, Michael Shanks did an incredible job. This is his directorial debut. It's also about the fears of commitment and the fear of not knowing if they're truly your soulmate or just someone you've gotten used to. And it's becoming one of those films where the more I think about it, the more I love it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I truly think this is gonna be one of my favorite movies of the year. This is 100% a movie that is not made for everyone. I know for a fact that I am going to hear a lot of people not like this movie. This movie is weird, it's gross. I know I already said this in the last video, but I just want to say I apologize for the lack of YouTube videos. Again, I've been working on a new film. I've been writing the script. I'm starting to film it right now, and I cannot wait to show it to you guys. There was definitely a lot of movies I wanted to make videos on, but just never got around to it, like 28 Years Later, Bring Her Back. So if you want to know my thoughts on any new movies coming out, or just any movie in general, you could follow me on Letterboxd. Here's my username if you want to go check it out. It's Mr. Slurpee 69. Yeah, that's my username. I made that account like 4 years ago, and I don't know how to change it. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.